Long bones. Your femur, your humerus, your tibia, your radius, your ulna. Any bone longer than it is wide. They make up most of the length of your arms and legs. Each one has a hard outer shell called cortical bone, wrapped around a hollow center filled with a mesh-like tissue called spongy bone. Inside that hollow center is your bone marrow, which produces roughly 2 million red blood cells every second, along with white blood cells and platelets. Long bones grow from areas near each end called growth plates, cartilage zones that produce new bone tissue during childhood and adolescence. Growth plates close permanently once that process finishes, usually sometime in your early 20s, which is also roughly when your height stops changing. The femur is the longest and strongest bone in your body, making up close to a quarter of your total height. Gram for gram, it's stronger than steel. It can withstand around 2,000 pounds of compressive force before breaking, more force than most cars weigh. That strength comes from its hollow tube design. Cortical bone on the outside handles compression and bending, while the honeycomb structure of spongy bone on the inside absorbs shock without adding unnecessary weight. The same engineering principle is used in aircraft wings and bridge supports, discovered in bone millions of years before humans figured out how to build with it deliberately. Long bones also function as a mineral reserve. Roughly 99% of your body's calcium and a large share of its phosphorus are stored inside them, released into your bloodstream whenever your blood calcium levels drop too low. Your entire skeleton isn't a fixed structure. It's constantly being broken down and rebuilt by two types of cells working in opposition. Osteoclasts dissolve old bone tissue, and osteoblasts build new bone in its place. That cycle replaces your entire skeleton roughly once every 10 years, which means the bones holding you up right now are not, materially, the same bones you had a decade ago. Short bones. The 8 carpal bones in each wrist, the 7 tarsal bones in each ankle and foot. Roughly as wide as they are long, close to cube-shaped. Unlike long bones, they don't have a shaft. They're made almost entirely of spongy bone, with only a thin layer of cortical bone on the outside. That structure trades raw strength for shock absorption and flexibility, which matters in joints that need to move in multiple directions at once rather than a single hinge motion. Your wrist has to let your hand rotate, flex, and extend while still transferring force from your hand back through your forearm, which is why it's built from 8 separate short bones instead of one solid piece. Each carpal bone glides slightly against its neighbors, distributing force across the whole group instead of concentrating it on a single point. The scaphoid, one of those 8 bones, sits at the base of the thumb side of the wrist and is the most frequently fractured carpal bone, usually from falling onto an outstretched hand. It also has one of the poorest blood supplies of any bone in the body. Blood enters mostly from one end, so a fracture there can take several months to heal, and in some cases, fails to heal at all without surgical intervention. The tarsal bones in your foot do a similar job for a much larger load. Every step you take transfers your full body weight through your ankle and into your foot. And the 7 tarsal bones, including the calcaneus, or heel bone, the largest of the group, absorb and redirect that force with every stride. The calcaneus alone can experience forces several times your body weight during running, which is why heel fractures, though less common, tend to be far more serious and slower to heal than fractures elsewhere in the foot. Flat bones. Your skull, your sternum, your ribs, your shoulder blades, and most of your pelvis. Thin, often curved, made of 2 layers of dense cortical bone with a layer of spongy bone sandwiched between them. A structure is sometimes described as a bone sandwich. That layered design gives flat bones strength without the weight of solid cortical bone all the way through. Their primary job is protection. The skull surrounds and shields your brain. Your ribs form a cage around your heart and lungs, flexible enough to expand with every breath, but rigid enough to absorb impact. The sternum anchors that rib cage at the front, holding all 12 pairs of ribs in position. Flat bones also provide wide, flat surfaces for muscle attachment. Your shoulder blades alone have more than a dozen distinct muscles attached to their surface, which is part of why your shoulders can move in so many directions. The skull isn't a single bone. It's 22 separate flat bones fused together along zigzagging lines called sutures. In infants, Those sutures haven't fused yet, which allows the skull to flex and slightly overlap during birth, and leaves the soft spots, the fontanelles, as literal gaps between unfused bone plates. Those gaps typically close by around 18 months of age. The spongy bone layer inside flat bones like the sternum and pelvis is also one of the most active sites of red blood cell production in adults, which is why bone marrow samples are frequently taken from the pelvis rather than from long bones. Irregular bones, your vertebrae, your sacrum, and most of the bones in your face. They don't fit into any of the other categories because their shape is dictated entirely by a specific, complicated job rather than a general pattern like length or flatness. Each vertebra has a solid, weight-bearing body at the front, a hollow ring at the back that protects the spinal cord running through it, and several small bony projections where muscles and ligaments attach. Stack 26 of them on top of each other, with a cushioning disc of cartilage between each pair, and you get a column that's rigid enough to hold your body upright against gravity, but flexible enough to bend forward, backward, and side to side. The lowest section, the sacrum, is actually 5 vertebrae that fuse into a single triangular bone by early adulthood, anchoring the base of your spine directly to your pelvis. Facial bones are also classified as irregular, and several of them, including parts of your skull around the nose and forehead, contain air-filled cavities called sinuses. Those cavities reduce the overall weight of the skull without weakening it, the same trade-off long bones make through their hollow center, just applied to a completely different shape. Irregular bones also tend to have the most complex internal blood supply of any bone category, which is part of why facial fractures and certain vertebral injuries are treated with particular caution. The risk isn't just to the bone itself, but to the surrounding nerve and blood vessel pathways running directly through it. If you've made it this far, you're probably learning something new. Hit like right now. It's what gets this in front of more people who could use it. Sesamoid bones. Small bones that form inside tendons instead of connecting directly to other bones. The patella, or kneecap, is the largest sesamoid bone in the human body. Smaller ones form inside tendons in the hands and feet, and the exact number can vary from person to person. Some people have extra sesamoid bones in their feet that others simply don't develop. Their job is mechanical, not structural. A sesamoid bone changes the angle at which a tendon pulls on a joint, which increases the mechanical advantage of the muscle attached to it. The patella sits inside the quadriceps tendon, directly in front of the knee joint. Without it, the quadriceps muscle would pull in a nearly straight line across the joint, losing a significant amount of force to friction and poor leverage. The patella redirects that angle outward, letting the same muscle generate more force during the exact same motion, the mechanical equivalent of a pulley. Sesamoid bones aren't present at birth. They form gradually, as tendons experience repeated mechanical stress in specific locations, which is part of why the patella isn't fully hardened or ossified until somewhere between ages 3 and 5. Because sesamoid bones sit inside tendons rather than being anchored between two other bones, they also heal differently when fractured, with a more limited blood supply and constant tension from the surrounding tendon pulling at the fracture site, which is why kneecap fractures often require a longer, more carefully managed recovery than fractures of long bones nearby. None of these 5 bone types are fixed once they finish growing. Osteoclasts and osteoblasts continue that remodeling cycle for your entire life, though the balance between them shifts dramatically with age. In childhood and adolescence, bone formation outpaces bone breakdown, which is how your skeleton grows both larger and denser. That balance peaks somewhere around your late 20s to early 30s, the point of maximum bone density you'll ever reach, called peak bone mass. After that point, the two processes roughly balance each other for a while, and then, starting around your mid-30s, bone breakdown gradually starts to outpace bone formation, a slow net loss that continues for the rest of your life unless specific factors intervene. That loss accelerates sharply for women after menopause, when a steep drop in estrogen, a hormone that normally restrains osteoclast activity, removes one of the body's main checks on bone breakdown. Women can lose up to 20% of their bone density in the 5 to 7 years following menopause. When that loss becomes severe enough that bones become fragile and fracture easily, it's called osteoporosis, and it disproportionately affects the same bone regions covered earlier: the hip, made largely of long bone, the spine, made of irregular vertebrae, and the wrist, made of short carpal bones, which is also why fractures in exactly those three locations are the classic warning signs doctors screen for. Weight-bearing exercise directly counteracts this process. Mechanical stress on a bone signals osteoblasts to lay down more tissue at the point of that stress, which is why astronauts lose bone density rapidly in zero gravity, with no load on their skeleton at all. Osteoclasts continue working, while osteoblasts have almost nothing to respond to. Some astronauts lose more bone density in 6 months in orbit than a postmenopausal woman loses in a year on Earth, and it doesn't fully reverse on its own once they return. When a bone breaks, it doesn't heal like skin. There's no scar. Within hours of a fracture, blood pools around the break and forms a clot, which triggers inflammation and starts recruiting the same cells responsible for ongoing bone remodeling. Over the following 1 to 2 weeks, that clot is gradually replaced by soft, cartilage-like tissue called a callus, bridging the gap between the two broken ends. That soft callus isn't strong enough to bear weight yet, but it holds the fracture together and gives osteoblasts a scaffold to build on. Over the next several weeks, that soft callus is gradually replaced by actual bone tissue, in a process that mirrors, on a small scale, the same remodeling cycle happening across your entire skeleton at all times. This hard callus is initially thicker and less organized than the surrounding bone, which is often visible on an X-ray as a noticeable bump at the fracture site. Over the following months to years, ongoing remodeling gradually reshapes that bump back toward the bone's original contour, guided partly by the mechanical stress the bone experiences during normal use. Healing time varies enormously by bone type and location, which connects directly back to blood supply. A rib, richly supplied with blood, can heal in as little as 3 to 6 weeks. The scaphoid, with its famously poor blood supply, can take 3 to 6 months and sometimes fails to heal at all without surgical stabilization. Long bones like the femur, despite their size, often heal faster than small bones with poor circulation because healing speed depends far more on blood supply than on how much bone tissue needs to be rebuilt. 5 bone types, each built for a different demand. Long bones, hollow tubes engineered for length and strength, doubling as your blood cell factory. Short bones, dense clusters built for shock absorption in joints that move in every direction. Flat bones, layered shields protecting your brain, heart, and lungs while giving muscles somewhere to attach. Irregular bones, shaped entirely around a single specific job, from protecting your spinal cord to lightening your skull. And sesamoid bones, small mechanical pulleys embedded inside your own tendons. None of them are finished once they stop growing. Every one of them is still being broken down and rebuilt right now, in a cycle that never fully stops for as long as you're alive. If you learned even one new thing today, subscribe and tell me in the comments which bone type surprised you the most. If this is the kind of thing that keeps you curious about your own body, that's exactly what this channel is about. Every system in your body covered completely. Stay safe and see you in the next video.